We on video. Welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain, and this is.
Goddess Bats.
And today we're doing a podcast episode. I don't interview people in person or on video, so this is like really exciting for me to be able to do. So I'm not gonna do our basic intro.
Okay.
Like I normally just start really letting people introduce themselves, how they want to be introduced, and then just kind of mention how we met, how we connected, and then go into the conversation.
Totally. So I'm Goddess Bats. My preferred pronouns are they, she, and I am a multi-dimensional artist, entrepreneur, trying to continue to live in New York happily and financially stable. Putting that into the universe. I'm actually trying to think about how or when we first met, and I can't remember what came first. Do you remember?
I thought it was here.
It was here for the rope.
Yeah.
Okay, that's also then serendipitous that in full circle
Oh,
that we're
yeah.
back in the spot where we first met.
Yeah, because there was a road class here. I think it was in May or June of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last time I got here. I was like, this looks familiar. I was like, oh, I was here before. And so that was when we met in person. I think I followed you on Instagram. I don't know if you posted a thing about herpes. Usually, if I see
Yeah,
somebody post something regarding herpes, I'll just follow them and share what it was.
yeah, I think I did. So, for context, I have a podcast, and on my podcast, we interviewed Safe Slut, and we basically, after the podcast, did some content. So, we made a reel where then I had put something like, when you meet two HSV positive hotties, insert something there. So, that might have been the reel you found.
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, not a lot of people are open about or like transparent about having herpes. And so you were able to make a reel with someone who's obviously been active and open about having herpes for a while. What was that process like for you?
It's funny because when we first reached out to work with her, I didn't think about how the similarity that we had would become something I could monetize or use as leverage in just expanding my audience. So, which is interesting because she's known for having HSV1. Um, but it was more so in the context of making reels for social media and using those kinds of clips where we're more focused where we focused our conversation more so around HSV1, which is then when I think more people on the internet found out that I had HSV1, since I don't usually disclose it that publicly, which probably comes from a plethora of things of internal shame and mind your business.
What reason would you have to disclose it publicly though?
Yeah, I feel like the only reason to disclose of it publicly is almost kind of in this collab sense where I'm talking with someone whose niche is more so that. Yeah, because for me, it's almost more of a like the more you know instead of needing to let people know about it.
Yeah. So it was more just like a spreading awareness thing. It wasn't really like an activism or
Yeah,
like,
I feel like there's so many people who are great activists, you included, for HSP1, and I'm just someone who has it and occasionally corrects people when they're misspeaking about it, but definitely don't feel like a spokesperson.
yeah. What's your corrections look like? And I'm gonna give like more context to that question. I think a lot of people want to get involved or they see people who are open about their herpes status and how fun they make the content look and the
Yeah.
creation of that and everything, but feel like they're not brave enough. And so I often offer for people to just advocate in their own ways. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you do so maybe in a one on one sense, but even in correcting people. So, can you share an example or two, if you have more than one, of what correcting someone looks like for you.
Yes. I'm trying to think about which example is better, but I might just mention two of the many. Most recently, I had a client that I worked with, and they reached out to me with, I guess, concern about where they had contracted HSV1. Um, and they kind of were blaming me and another mutual friend who they knew that I knew of. And I get it. When you first get a diagnosis, you want to go back to the moment of like, when did I get this? Almost, who can I blame? But I wasn't going to let that happen. So I kindly told the client that, one, there's a chance that they could have had HSV1 prior and didn't have a visible outbreak that they either noticed or that they went to a doctor for and then got tested for and found out about it. So it's something that they might have had prior to even knowing me or my friend. And then I had told them that I had given them some education about why a lot of doctors don't test for HSV1 or 2. You usually have to ask for it. And they were grateful for the grace that I basically had for them and the corrections that I gave them. Um, yeah, they mentioned it helped them process a little bit better too, which I was like, that's all I really want. You to be able to process a little better, and just like move forward in the world, like communicating about it a little better. Because I could tell from their email that they had a lot of shame, and um, it was a very, oh my God, my life is over moment, but it doesn't have to be over.
Yeah.
And I think also so then this goes into my second most having to correct people or misconception is letting people know that I think it's over 80% or around 80% of people generally just in the whole world have either HSV1 or 2 or both. Um, and I think at least when I heard that stat, it was really reassuring that I wasn't alone. And although religion or other people who are just ignorant may want to shame me or make me feel like I'm alone, I'm not.
That's interesting because when I got my diagnosis and they showed all those statistics, it made me feel like more alone. So I saw the
Really?
same statistics, but it's like that's great that 80% of the population has herpes. I don't know any of these people.
That's fair.
And it took for me to, when I did eventually start telling my friends, like they'd be like, "Oh, you know, so and so has it." I was like, "What?" And it'd be somebody that we've interacted or somebody that maybe I've flirted with, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to tell her I have herpes. We're in the same friend group and I don't want this to be a thing.
Yeah.
And then years later find out, oh shit, that person had it too, or that
Mm-hmm.
person had it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took for me to get through the other side of, I guess, the shame and embarrassment of having it, because when I was diagnosed, I remember not wanting to be known as that person that was going around here giving people herpes. So when I reached out to people, I was like, "Hey, do you have herpes?" It was like my most recent sexual partners,
Yeah.
and everyone said no, and I was just like, "All right, now what?" So what was your experience like when you got diagnosed with HSV1, or was it something that you just always had?
So I feel like it was probably something I always had. My mom had confirmed with me and like my sibling that she was positive for herpes, and she would often get cold sores like monthly. And I don't think she was taking treatment for it, um, probably out of her own like ignorance that she could be treated for it. Um, so I remember hearing that as a child and then not experiencing my first cold sore until maybe middle school or high
Mm-hmm.
school, and my mom noticing it right away and her kind of calming the situation down and just being like, oh, it's just a cold sore, people get that all the time, like don't think anything of it. And then I think later in my high school journey, finding out through just like health classes that cold sores was herpes.
They taught y'all that? We didn't get, I don't remember getting that.
Okay, I have to say this was, I think, maybe my junior or senior year in high school. So I also don't know if they have like different professors for different age groups.
Okay.
Because I will say I wasn't finding that out either prior to like that one class where we had, and yeah, very fortunate that the educator we had was actually good. And I was like, this is the best sex ed I've ever gotten. But it wasn't until
And where was
then,
this at? Was this here?
Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to some high school in South Brooklyn. Nothing special about it. But it was once I made that connection to the herpes and the cold sore that I had mixed feelings thinking about it. I think I was in denial also for a little bit. I was also in a relationship with someone that it was very long term. So I don't even think I told them necessarily that I had herpes, but they also knew I had cold sores, but they never made me feel different for it. So I feel like that all played into my experience of kind of being calm about it overall. Yeah.
Okay. I am very curious to know, like now in dating, disclosing, like how does that work for you? Because to my understanding, you're polyamorous.
Yes.
Okay, so how does that go over with partners? Do you only date people with herpes? Do people have any concerns? Like, how do you navigate that?
A disclosure is I'm still learning.
Okay.
And I say that because prior to actually posting the reel that you probably had found, someone who I had casually played with at a play party in the scene had found the video, and I guess at the party I didn't disclose, and they were really hurt by that, and I had to like own up to my own mistake for not disclosing. And in reflection, just because I think something is super normal and that everyone has, like that's my assumption, and it's not a reality for a lot of people. So that was a big learning lesson for me, to remember to disclose whether or not I think someone would care to know or not. Doesn't matter where we meet, if it's at a party like that or through a friend of a friend. If I'm going to be intimate with them, it's something that I should always disclose regardless. So that was a learning lesson. But prior to that, for the most part, I felt like I was disclosing to people. And I think what also made me then not tell that person specifically was having experiences with other people where they would be like, oh, everyone has herpes. Like, why are you telling me that? And kind of getting the notion from people that like I was wasting my time by disclosing. But now I know I rather play safe than sorry and disclose to anyone, regardless if they think that I'm silly for disclosing or not. And yeah, that's kind of been my overall experience. It's either I get, oh, thank you for telling me, or yeah, doesn't everybody have it? But I've never been, or I never have been rejected, I would say.
You ain't never been rejected?
For having herpes.
Right.
I've been rejected.
But no one's rejecting you for having herpes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. At least that I know of. Maybe
Okay.
they did and they didn't mention the herpes. But as far as I know, any rejection that I received was not related to my status.
Okay. And as we talk, I guess while we're on the topic of rejection, then, if not like for herpes, I think a lot of people who have it think that that's why a person may not want to be with, play with, have sex with, or even be around them in some cases. So I like to give some examples of like alternative rejections, even like something as simple as asking someone at dinner, hey, can you pass the salt? If they say no, right, that's a rejection.
Yeah.
Are there things that you can speak to from the dating experience and maybe are other reasons that you've been rejected?
Yes. Let me recall the few times.
The few?
Damn.
Put you on the spot, huh?
I know, this should be simpler.
Like, it's all right. You ain't got to try to like humanize yourself for everybody else.
No. I've definitely have been. I also feel like The kind of rejection I more recently have experienced has been ghosting, which I think is interesting. And what that can look like is maybe me asking someone out to dinner and them saying, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea," and then me sort of, furthering the plans to like solidify dinner, and then I get ghosted. I think that would be a form of rejection, and I think I get that more so than a flat out no, to be honest.
Are we talking friends or dates?
Both.
Okay. And I guess I'm curious, what is your, how do you sexually identify? Because when you said like, I'll ask someone out, I'm like, damn, dudes ghosting? Or you're asking dudes out? And that's like a
So to
default thought.
clarify, I would say I'm queer, and for people who are like, "What does that mean?" I'm basically bisexual, um, and I do make the first move to a lot of men actually who I'm interested in, which I hear is rare, but I kind of have been doing that my whole life. So I didn't realize that most femme presenting people don't make the first move with men. Um, so I've been rejected by both.
All right. Is it different? Does it feel different rejecting or being rejected by women versus being rejected by men?
I will say, in my experience, being rejected by men, they're more likely to be straightforward and give me the no, or even tell me, or maybe make up an excuse for what the no is.
Uh huh.
Versus in my experience with women, that's usually who I get ghosted by more. But in some rare cases, I've probably also been just told no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm remembering a specific
Okay. What you got?
situation now.
What you got?
I have a friend who's a Taurus. I don't know if she'll ever watch this or not, but we went out to celebrate her birthday with a couple of friends.
This is getting very specific. You sure you want to finish the story?
And basically, I just asked if she would like a good night, like happy birthday kiss. And she respectfully was just like, no.
Oh, okay.
And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go then. Bye.
What do you do with that? Like, okay, first off, have you rejected people?
Yeah.
Which one feels harder to you? Being rejected or rejecting?
Rejecting people,
That
definitely.
is so much fucking harder
It's
for me.
so hard. Like receiving a rejection, I'm like, cool. Like that was so cool that you could reject me like that. And that's literally as I was leaving after that situation, going home. I'm like, that's so cool. I'm glad she was able to say no and like, put up that boundary in our relationship now. Because prior, I had some hints from one of her partners that she could be interested in receiving something like that. But it's totally harder to reject somebody. And even if I know that they're going to receive it fine, it's still hard to do. And I can admit that I find myself having to stop myself from wanting to make an excuse for like rejection. Yeah, which I think is my own trauma of having people question my nose. So wanting to give them that excuse before they can bother me for it.
Yeah. I find that in my experience as a straight man, oftentimes between that and dating and relationships is very similar to sales. In no means try harder. Find out why no, and then like, okay, well, is it because I'm not tall enough? Let me go get this knee surgery real quick. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
And in this sex positivity space, like, can we talk about the party you had?
Yeah, totally.
So it's really cool that in these spaces, and it's so different because I was talking about this to people even at the party where like in the vanilla world, you go to a bar or something, like you gotta have game, you gotta like be smooth, you gotta come correct.
Yeah, you
if
gotta
your
dress
shoes
nice.
don't look like good, if your outfit don't match,
Right.
that's instant no.
If
Instant
they catch
rejection.
you, you don't leave a tip.
And that, yeah. And in these spaces, it's so much more like consent for it, and it's almost like not cool. And I use air quotes when I say cool because you ain't showing up with like the lines or game. Like it is, hey, do you want to have a conversation? Like,
Right.
can I talk
Because
to you?
you can show up with any game that you have, but if you're not having consent at the forefront, people will clock it or reject you for the lack of consideration to consent. Whether that's asking for a hug or even like thoughtfully or thoughtlessly touching someone's arm or around their waist or something,
Yeah.
where, you know, in this very vulnerable environment, people can be half naked, if not naked.
Yeah.
So having consent at the forefront is super important.
Yeah, for sure. That made me think about like how I don't know if you've had the experience of being in sex positive spaces and then being in vanilla spaces and recognizing, oh shit, I'm not, this isn't
I'm not
normal
home.
here, right? Do you engage with the vanilla world? Like, do
I
you
mean, I
have,
have to,
uh huh,
but I try not to, but I have to. And I have so many vanilla friends, and it's funny because I'll try to invite them to the parties that I throw. And it's always a mixed bag. For the most part, a lot of them have never came, and the ones that have either came once, and I can tell that was their like super cool story and experience that now they get to like throw at a never have I ever, versus maybe like 1% of that group where they come back and they're like actually interested and
yeah,
thank me for thinking of them and like showing them that world. So I still have to deal with vanilla world
yeah,
things. But for the most part, I try to keep any gatherings that I go to, like if it's a workshop or an event or a speed dating, I do try to like nicheify it to either polyamorous or queer communities.
mm-hmm. uh, Damn, what was I about to ask you? I tried to just let you talk and be present there, but
I appreciate
oh,
that.
the
Yeah.
parties that you throw. Can
Hmm.
you describe them? I know you mentioned
Yeah.
queer or
So
polyamorous.
I like to tell people that they're house parties where people just have sex. I think that demystifies it and
Wait, wait,
brings
wait.
off,
Can you say that again? They're house parties where people just have sex.
or they have the option to
Okay,
have
all right.
sex.
Because I heard that the
Not
other
they
way. I was
just
like, I
have
don't
sex,
think that's
sorry.
it. All right. Wanted to
There's the
clarify.
option to have sex. People are having sex. You don't have to be having sex, but you have to be semi comfortable knowing that as you're talking about whatever you're talking about, someone in the background is going to be moaning, because that doesn't happen at regular house parties. Um, but that's kind of what I like to tell people to sort of bring them down from their image of probably Eyes Wide Shut or something, where they're probably thinking it's going to be way more intense than it actually is.
I remember I walked into a sex party. I didn't know it was a sex party.
Oh,
And not knowing this, I was just like shocked and uncomfortable.
right. That
And
sounds
I was
normal.
like, yo, I'm cool. Like, if I knew that this was what I was walking into, all right, awesome. But I was just like, fuck. It was
Did someone just invite you without
I don't
mentioning
think he
it,
knew.
or?
I don't think any of us knew that this was a sex party. It was like a
Oh shit.
party, and then there was like upstairs. There's stuff going on, and I think everybody was supposed to know what stuff going on meant.
Meant right.
And people were like coming downstairs, and like again and again, there was just like dude after dude after dude, and I was standing there. I was standing like hovering around the people I was with because I was like, something, I don't know what's happening here. Like there was a fucking smorgasbord of just snacks. It looked like they threw a barbecue and
Right.
it was just, they brought everything inside. And I was like, oh, cool, they got snacks here. And there was a dance floor that nobody was on except like the DJ and maybe two people. And so I'm just like scoping the house, and then like you just see these dudes just
And it
consistently
was a
walk
2-floor
past.
house with like a backyard.
Yeah, big backyard, huge backyard. This
I
was in
think I
Portland,
know.
Oregon, too.
Oh, in
This was in
Portland, Oregon.
Portland. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you got
yeah.
me now.
All right,
I
so
was
I'm,
thinking of places in Brooklyn. I was like, is it that place? No, Portland, Oregon.
and so I'm standing there, and I was like, I wonder what's going on over there. But I was hovering around my people. So this guy comes, and he like looks real accomplished. Like, he was like, yeah, I did that. I was like, okay. And he comes up and he puts his hand like on the person next to me, and I smell ass and condom. I know that smell like very well, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is some kind of a sex party." And I was like, "All right." I was like, "I don't know that I really have anything to contribute here,"
Right,
and I was
right,
like,
right.
"Let me go outside." So I went outside, and I ended up talking to some woman there about Dragon Ball Z, and she misnamed the character, and I was like, "Oh,
Aww.
you making me look bad," because there was other people that were like in the conversation too. But that was it's important to know that these parties, when people come, they know what to expect and they
Yeah.
know what they are.
Yeah, and definitely anyone who's attending knows that they're coming to this event, because I work with I work with a company that they're known for doing that. So anybody who is subscribed to their newsletter and finding out about the party knows that there will be sex at the party. And if I'm doing promotion for the party, let's say on my Instagram, we use
Which
words
is,
like
what's your Instagram?
Instagram is at actually bats at this current moment. I don't know if I'm ever gonna change that or not, but I've said it so much. I'm like, if I change it, then how are they gonna find me? So at actually bats. Um, but yeah, I'll usually say that it's a play party, and most people who know that play party means sex party without being too explicit. And usually, if people don't know what that means, the good ones ask, and then they find out.
Okay. Now, how does that work? Because I get questions sometimes from people who are like, I can't play at parties anymore. How do I disclose this? Because I think there's
Mm,
an assumption too that because you have herpes that people aren't going to want to play with you,
right.
or like it's not sexy to disclose, which is kind of like that vanilla world mindset of killing the mood by talking about sexual health.
Yeah.
So how does this come up in a play party setting?
In my experience, if I am, I guess, doing pickup play is what we call it, and I'm at the point where it's clear that me and this person want to get intimate, but before we get down and dirty, we're negotiating,
I
and
love these
usually,
like random phrases and not just saying what it is. That's incredible.
well, I think about just the world that we live in and the censorship that exists. And I'm already saying sex so much that I'm like, how do I censor myself and change it up a little bit?
Okay. I just I don't even try anymore. I
That's
would
fair.
say if I have to say sex, I'll say that 3 letter S word that ends with
Sure.
an X and has an E in the middle. And that is so exhausting to type up every time I want to use the word. I
Incredibly.
don't even care. Podcasts haven't been censored yet, as
Yeah.
far as I know.
Yeah.
But just even on social media, like I just direct people to the podcast, and even that gets censored because I'm taking away Instagram engagement.
Yeah. It's all pretty exhausting. Um, what was the question that you had asked me though?
We were talking about you were talking about pickup play and when to
Right.
share your status.
Okay. So you're negotiating with somebody. Usually, before we get into playing, I it'll be like one of the last things I say, mostly because I am also uncomfortable in having to disclose still because of the stigma that exists. But usually I'll mention it at the end, and just, especially if if they didn't disclose something first, or I also find that usually I'm the one who's asking about disclosing things or like test results, which I find interesting. Um, but usually at that point, then I'll mention, I recently got tested, or it's been 2 weeks since I last tested, and I have a history of HSV1, and I haven't had an outbreak since X time. And usually, either that's when people either ask more questions, either reject me, or say, cool, thanks for letting me know. Ready to continue.
So you remember that you've been rejected, but what story do we have? Do we have a story there?
Well, I feel like the rejection maybe then after disclosing looks more like, oh, thanks for letting me know. Actually, I have to
I
go
gotta
to the
leave.
bathroom, or let me think about this. Now I'm trying to think, has that actually happened to me, or has someone told me that that's happened to
I
them?
don't know because that's a common story.
But
Like you're at a party, and I often have to share my status a lot sooner than I'm ready to.
right,
One of the first questions in the vanilla world that people ask,
yeah,
"What do you do?"
right.
Like,
This is it.
I run this nonprofit for people with herpes, and I've had a few like really shocked looks, and people like, "Oh my god, I have herpes," and it's like,
Mm,
"Oh, like cool." More often than not, I've gotten me too than anyone just flat out being like uncomfortable or no thanks or
Right.
rejecting me.
Right.
I remember once I was at like a house party and I was having like a lot of conversation with someone, and then at some point, what do you do came up, and then we started talking about herpes, and whole energy changed, and then like she had to go to the
Right.
bathroom,
Right. You throw
and
in
that
an
was it.
excuse.
Yeah, and then that was it. But I would say that unfortunately, that's one of the more memorable experiences. Like, I've not been rejected a lot more often than I have been rejected. And I think a lot of people just don't put themselves in the position to even experience the rejection and get what it is that they want. So, I'm curious, like, what's your process for after you do experience rejection? Like, how do you keep at it? And you, somebody that you hit on men and women, right?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I guess for me, it's just remembering that, like, it's not that personal and being grounded in knowing that even if I have herpes, that doesn't make me any less interesting or desirable. And just because this one person, or however many people it is, has rejected me doesn't diminish anything about me. And just kind of staying grounded in that as like a mantra almost.
Yeah. And also, though, you're in a space too where I think it's also much more normalized to even have these conversations.
Yeah.
And you being the femme
Yeah,
presenting
mostly
person,
femme presenting.
all right, so mostly femme presenting, you're initiating these conversations. How often are the conversations initiated with you, if at all, about sexual health?
When you say about sexual health,
Yeah.
never.
Ah,
Or
okay.
almost never, I feel like. I
Okay.
think in my experience, so I've been in this more open, kinky play space for 3 or 4 years. And in that time frame, I've had less than 5 people initiate what's your status combo.
Hmm. And were these people who had something to disclose
Yep.
or,
They all had something to
interesting.
disclose. And for the most part, it was HSV 1
Uh
or
huh.
2.
Okay. And one thing that I'm curious about, well, I guess like HPV isn't one that comes up often at all, but it is on us as people who have herpes. Like, unfortunately, we are leading the conversations about
Usually.
sexual
Yeah.
health, and it's normalized in this space, but is it really, or are there a lot of assumptions that are made here in sex positive spaces the same way that you would make them in more vanilla spaces, or
Mm-hmm.
like at swinger parties? Like, I hear people who, if they get herpes, are like, I can't go to events anymore because no one is going to want to play with me. I'm like, well, do y'all ever talk about sexual health? Like, no. Why would we? Like,
And that's why I think there's almost it's a spectrum. There are going to be people on one side of the spectrum that stay ignorant and will have that more visceral reaction versus the center of the spectrum where you might not get a visceral reaction, but there will be a shift in energy. And then way on the other side of the spectrum are people who just get it and are the ones who will mention it before you and probably also have it. um, yeah.
mm-hmm. um, I wanted to talk about I'm thinking about the intake form you sent me. You mentioned shame, being bullied, and religion.
Hmm.
Whichever of those you want to start with, like, we can go from there.
Well, I feel like religion and shame almost go hand in hand, at least in my brain.
Okay.
I grew up in a Catholic household.
I
Uh,
feel like I talked to a lot of people who grew up Catholic.
yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but
Like, is there anything else that doesn't fuck people up, I guess?
yeah, I have no idea. Like, I remember my mom tried to even put me in Sunday school and was trying to have me do my communion, and I just gave her a lot of resistance.
Like,
Um,
even as single digit age, or are we
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about, okay.
yeah. When did it? Uh, yeah, I feel like I probably was not in single digit age when we started Sunday school, and shout out to the struggles of being a single parent in New York, where it became so where my mom couldn't have people pick us up or bring us to Sunday school, and it just became more of a hassle to do rather than a convenience. So that's how I got out of that. Same with my communion, just a convenience thing got me out of it, to be honest. Um, and then from there, I feel like my rebellion just continued against the church. And anytime anyone in my family wanted to do anything going to church, there's one aunt in particular who would usually do Christmas Eve. Most like Spanish households will celebrate Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day, and often will go and do a mass at midnight or something.
Oh.
So we kind of grew up doing that, and as I just got older, I just kept being like, I don't want to do it. No, can we
Yeah.
just go home? I want to go to sleep. I don't want to do it. And having, I mean, I was lucky that my mom was just also tired and often gave in to me not wanting to be at church. And then also, personally, with my mom specifically, we were never really encouraged to practice. I feel like, especially once she was given so much resistance, she was kind of like, all right, I tried. If you don't want to do it, you won't do it, but it is what it is, kind of thing. And then also, I think with the times, society eventually also stopped centralizing religion too. Because I feel in my family, at least, I think there's maybe only one of the four aunts who still does mass every Christmas Eve. I think everyone else, for the most part, has decentered the Catholicism of religion and just holidays that go along with that. But there's still shame. And I think whether it's the church or the influence the church has on people who attend, shame was definitely something that was more felt. Whether it was like just verbal things that people would say. Yeah, I don't want to get like too into
You ain't got
it,
to, yeah.
but
What's your culture, household,
or like
ethnicity?
ethnicity. So both of my parents are Dominican. My dad still lives on the island and was born on the island. My mom was born here, so she still lives here. And growing up, we were taught Spanish but didn't practice very often. I'm someone who can like listen and read more than I can speak, but I can also still get around. Um, and yeah, I feel like older generations were very forceful on like my parents to go to church and keep that up. But I feel like, at least in America, um, my mom struggled to kind of keep that discipline with me and my sister, at least. But although the discipline for going to church wasn't there, the ideologies were still, hence receiving a lot of shame from my family, from whether it's me being bisexual or me being open or polyamorous. Yeah, just having like a more sex positive lifestyle and like knowing that I wanted that at a young age, that being in high school. Um, yeah, it came with like a lot of shame. Yeah.
All right, you good? Because that seemed
I'm
like an
good. I'm
abrupt
good. I'm
stop.
good.
Like you started thinking, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah, I
stop
guess when
there."
I start thinking about it, I want to mention some things and then I don't want to mention them.
Listen, I done said a lot of shit on these podcasts, like, and I
Exactly.
think that those things oftentimes are what people connect with. But
Yeah,
also, like,
definitely.
if you good there, we can transition.
No, I mean, I'm fine to say that, like,
Because that's a lot. That's a lot stacked. Like intersectionality, right?
yeah,
Bisexuality, open or being polyamorous, and also your family knows these things.
my mom specifically,
Okay.
because definitely, yeah, when I think of my immediate family, I think of my mom and sister.
Okay.
And then when I think of the rest of the family, that's, aunts, grandma, grandpa, my dad, since he's super far. Um, but just between my mom and my sister, they know that I'm open, that I'm queer, that I prefer poly. They know that I do sex work, for example.
You never mentioned that one, and I was just gonna stay away from it until you brought it up. All right, all right.
Yeah, I realized in my intro that I didn't mention it.
When you said multi-dimensional create, I was like, all right, I ain't heard that one before. All right, cool, cool.
Yeah, but that also comes from shame in like disclosing or doxing yourself. But also, I feel like on the internet, I'm pretty open about what I do. And if you go to at actually bats, it'll be pretty clear
There you go, plug it.
um, that I'm in the world more than just throwing lifestyle parties.
Cool. So we can go into that like sector now as well.
Yeah, we can transition.
But I do want to know, like, what was, did these things feel like coming out of the closet for you or opening up? Like
They definitely
literally.
felt like coming out of the closet, but it's so funny because when I did tell my mom and sister, for example, about sex work, neither of them were surprised.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were like, I know, we knew already.
No, they didn't know for sure, but they had a feeling, especially since I was transitioning from having like a corporate job and talking a lot about work and then going to no, I'm just doing freelance and never going into details about work. Um, yeah.
What was corporate? What was corporate for
I
you?
literally worked as an assistant editor for commercials, TV, movies.
You worked in advertising?
I hated advertising, but I did some of that. I did,
That's my
Netflix,
background.
HBO, PBS. Like
Uh-huh.
I worked everywhere.
No shit.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Okay.
And I literally stopped doing all of that because, well, a couple of things. One,
Pandemic.
well, I was actually still doing it in the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
it almost became easier for me to do in the pandemic because I was working from home now. I was getting paid a lot. I wasn't being really hovered over for the work that I was doing, so I had a lot more freedom to then start the OnlyFans, to then start making content at home and being able to like be at work and I was supposed to be editing things for work and I was, but also would take breaks to work on my stuff and build what now I am doing full time versus was just starting when I was still doing assistant editing.
Mm-hmm. What was a draw or appeal to leaving the corporate world and entering the
Yes.
sex work
So
field?
one big draw for leaving was I was finding it hard to either be brought back on to different seasons of shows or different projects. I was feeling a disconnect with the people I was working with. Um, and just feeling a lot of burnout from having to really network a lot, put myself out there, be rejected, or, get some long felt explanation for why I wasn't the best fit, even though I probably was just as a great fit as the other person.
And we talking about for the editing jobs?
For the editing
Okay.
jobs, yeah, they're super competitive, especially in New York City. And I was in the union, which is even more competitive to stay in, let alone get in, just because they're more active on the West Coast than the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a draw for leaving. And then the second big draw was realizing that all of the side hustle, passive income work that I was doing was giving me a lot more joy and I felt a lot more freedom from.
Yeah.
And I always remember people are always saying, do what you love for work and you'll never feel like you worked a day in your life. And although that is true, it's also not.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have a team of people helping you, it is still the grunt end of work. You're just
And
more
you gotta do
motivated to do it. Yeah, on top of it all, you're just motivated to do it more because you really are enjoying it. So that was also my draw for leaving and like trusting that I can do this full time.
Mm-hmm. Now, with having herpes and doing sex work, at least partnered sex work, are those conversations different than what they are in the vanilla world or in the dating world?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I feel like if I was doing, let's see, a partnered scene, a lot of people in the industry don't even talk about HSV1 or HPV. It's more so sharing of your results and what's on the panel, like industry wise, which doesn't include HSV1 or HPV. It's more so oral swabs or genital swabs, your usual chlamydia, gonorrhea, HIV. Um, I think that's it. Oh, and then now for industry standard, they test mycoplasma as well, which if you're not doing an industry standard test, you usually have to still ask for it, because most industry people will not work with you if you're not testing for mycoplasma. Um, and now that I'm on the subject of mycoplasma, I want to mention that if you're vanilla but having a lot of sex, you should also test for mycoplasma, because you probably have it and are spreading it if you're having unprotected sex with a lot of people. Um, yeah, I feel like that's one of the biggest things I come across with like having sex with people who aren't sex positive, or at least like in the industry. A lot of people don't know what mycoplasma is until you test positive for it and know of someone who has it or a partner has it and then lets you know about it. um, do you have experience with
I
mycoplasma?
literally don't know what that is, and I was gonna
Ooh,
sit here and just act like I did, and until you got to the point where you explained it, and I was like, that's not gonna
it's literally just bacterial, and a lot of doctors will say that they're not testing for it or don't consider it an STI or an STD because it is just like bad bacteria. However, for the industry of making porn, they consider it an STI since it is bad bacteria. So if you do have a positive test, then it's like you're out of work for about 4 to 8 weeks, depending on treatment, if you retest and the treatment didn't go through. And
happen.
treatment is about 14 days, and depending on your provider, they'll suggest waiting another 7 to, what is it, 3 or 4 weeks until you can test again.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it's a lot for someone who works in the industry, and to like test positive for it, at least I have felt like very alienated, especially since a lot of my vanilla friends don't know about it. So I have found that I've become the spokesperson for mycoplasma.
Just get your hat.
There's like 3 different versions of it that you can test for,
Yeah.
but it's all genitalia related.
All right. The next thing I was gonna ask you. Oh, so how often are you tested or testing?
So it's, you're supposed to test every 14 days, and that's exhausting. So my regimen now is, let's say I test on the first of the month. I have that test for 14 days and can work unprotected, within those 14 days. And then usually what I'll do, instead of getting that second test that I would in a month, I kind of take 2 weeks to just like not do work of that sort, so I'm not over testing myself. A lot of medical providers think it's kind of overkill to also test that often. Um, and it also feels like overkill for me to be leaving my apartment twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, if I was bad at scheduling collabs and whatnot. But now I'll do it once a month, basically,
Okay.
in short.
And that's more than some people are tested in their lifetime. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that we have this.
When I tell people every 14 days, they look at me like I'm crazy. Some medical professionals have looked at me like I'm crazy. And then when I disclose that I do porn, they're like, that makes more sense, but also that shouldn't be a requirement. But it is.
Yeah, and I mean it's a lot safer of a recommendation
No, definitely.
than what anybody else is doing. Like I know people who know that their partner might be cheating on them and still haven't gone to get a test. I know people who popped up with something that they've had for who knows how long because they haven't had sex for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then they test for chlamydia, and they're like, "Oh, I'm having these. I'm gonna finally go get tested," and then it's like, "Oh shit, I was positive for chlamydia,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's just such an interesting thing that the people who I guess we're told like not to model or don't be like that, this is
Mm-hmm.
bad, are the people who are exercising more cautiously than people who aren't.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception, but also I don't know why I feel like saying got 'em moments, because I
The what
think
moment?
got 'em, like you got them. And I'll explain because I feel like a lot of
Not
people.
gotcha.
Maybe it is gotcha.
All
Got him.
right,
Gotcha.
gotcha. Like gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the two.
All right.
Tomato, tomato. Either way, I feel like.
Oh yeah, I thought that was like an East Coast thing or something because I was like, I have never heard that. But all right.
You know, I like to make things up sometimes.
That's
but
fine.
I feel like a lot of people have or try to shame people who are more sexually liberated or positive when really, for the most part, they're usually the people who are the most conscious and like aware and educated. um yeah, I always let my mom and sister know, I'm like, you have all this like worry for me, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm the safest one in our circle of our family, probably. So you really shouldn't have to worry.
That sounds like one of the things where you know what's going on with like some other relatives.
Yeah,
You're
you're just like,
you look at
listen,
Uncle So and So.
you should not be worried about me.
Yeah.
I've got it all right.
Yeah. And so, are you supported by your family, immediate family, sister, mom?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, as long as you're safe and are stable, we're happy for you, but also we're not telling anybody else.
Yeah.
And nobody else should know about it. So it's.
But they haven't like treated you differently from any of your intersections of identity.
No.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I feel like it's I haven't been treated any differently, but also the way I get treated isn't really great in the first place, and that's more so why I have that reaction. A lot of the
Say
like
more.
bullying and shame that I experience.
What a transition. All right, into the bullying.
Comes from my immediate family. So that's kind of why.
Teasing playfully or
all
no.
of the above.
So this isn't like playful teasing.
I feel like they think it's playful, but when I put up the boundary that it's not playful and it keeps occurring, now it feels just like disrespect.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I got you. And what's the difference there between like it being playful teasing and boundary?
Like I think the difference is playful teasing for me. I don't know. I guess the tonality is a little different. But also I think if you've already stated a clear boundary and not wanting to be teased or like have like my sex life be the punchline for someone, basically. If I set that boundary up and it's crossed, I take that just as disrespect, for the most part. I'm trying to think of like a good example of teasing, but I can't think of any.
I imagine like that'd be more of a friends thing, like
friends,
partners.
And even my friends like don't really tease me about it, which is why I'm like, what is an example of being teased that I would not be uncomfortable with? Mm-hmm. And it's probably more of a comment of someone maybe being like, oh, of course Bats did that sexually explicit thing in like a teasing way. And like, I guess the tease being, oh, we're not surprised.
Are we talking like a game of Never Have I Ever?
I guess. I'm trying to like come up with an example, and this is just where my mind is going. Would it happen with my mom and sister? Actually, yes, because we've definitely have played something like this on like a family holiday, becomes a drinking game.
And you're like, never have I ever read Harry Potter book. And then they're like, never have I ever had a boyfriend and a girlfriend.
Right. Like, and I'm like, oh man. Yeah, basically.
All right. Navigating the rest of the world with these intersections of identities, like, how are you? How is that for you?
Pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think I keep a good circle around myself, and the algorithm is not showing me anything that's gonna upset me, so I'm not having to deal with a lot of trolls or hate, thankfully, because if that was an added pressure, my answer would be different.
Yeah. You seem very like grounded.
Yeah. And I mean, my therapist, who I'm not seeing anymore because I'm doing so well, would say that one of my like positive growths this year is in like how calm I'm able to stay and grounded, and just like the techniques that I do to stay grounded in like jealousy, for example, or shame. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you? Well, I have two questions. One is, I thought that actually bats like meant like maybe that was short for batshit crazy or
Some people
something.
think that.
But I think I realized what it is based on what your intake form was.
Mm.
I think I know. I'm not gonna say it on here. We can talk about it afterwards, but
I hope you remember,
I
because
will. I won't forget this. I
okay.
won't forget this. But does bats have an origin?
The origin, honestly, is not as deep as people think it
I'm
is.
right.
But really, like, someone who I went to camp with years ago literally drunkenly just referred to me as Bats.
Uh-huh.
And it just so happened that the mascot for this camp was a bat as well. So it like made sense, even though I was still confused. Um, but I remember like however many years following needing an OnlyFans account and being like, well, what am I going to name myself? And sort of being like, Bats has a nice ring to it. There are not really any bats out there. And then, and then I was kind of like, well, you can't just be Bats. You're not Cher. So I, was like, I am a goddess and I deserve to be worshipped. So I threw in the goddess in there, and that became me.
All right. All right. I think about how like Childish Gambino's name came from a Wu-Tang name generator.
Sure.
And you're like, well, no, I got like more of this detailed story, but it's still simple.
Yeah, still
So I
simple.
will not forget to ask you about this when we get done.
Okay.
And then taking it back to, I think I want to do a little bit more into the rejection thing, and you being someone who's femme presenting, who initiates, like when you're attracted to someone, when you want like something with them,
Yeah.
like why?
Why initiate?
Yeah,
Closed mouths don't get fed.
that's a very hustler mindset. So the reason I asked, and I think you said men tend to be more direct
Mm-hmm.
in if they're not interested,
Yeah.
whereas women will like act interested and not be.
Sure.
And there's a corner of the internet where men would see that as like emasculating.
Oh, like initiating?
Yeah.
Anyone I'm initiating with is happy and not emasculated.
Yeah.
If anything, they say that they wished that more people, femme presenting, would initiate with them, because, either they were playing this cat and mouse game for longer than they thought that they had to, because, they didn't want to be rejected themselves or something. And I think in my experience, I started initiating around high school, and I noticed.
In high school?
Yeah. Like, I think the first ever boyfriend that I got, I initiated, and everyone was surprised that I pulled him. That relationship didn't even last very long, but it like became my I don't know, it was something that stuck in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And even though like the next couple of relationships that I got into, I didn't initiate, still in my then like single life, I would initiate dates, or would playfully try to, like reel someone in and let them know that I was interested, so then they could initiate. Admittingly, I do that more with other femmes, which is also interesting. I don't know why I find it easier to initiate with a man. And I think maybe it's because I know I'm not going to get rejected, because I usually am not rejected by men. And I'll leave it at that.
A lot of dudes don't get that. Like, oftentimes I think that we're expected to do the initiating, but also we live in a world where I think there's a lot of fear. So I'm part of this men's group, men's circle, and sometimes these topics come up. And one of the guys who was there before, I won't go into too much detail, but he shared that his nephew is a Gen Z, and he was like, "Oh, that girl's cute." He's like, "Why don't you go talk to her?" And it's like beyond him that he wouldn't go talk to her. And the guy was like, well, no, I don't want to end up on somebody's Instagram. Like, you got this to worry about. Like, if she does reject me, that thing is not between her and I. It's between me, her, and whoever's in her group chat, the TikTok video, all of that.
I'm laughing because I know someone else who goes to your group and they brought that same example up for
Oh.
something similarly. So I was like, oh, I already know this story,
Yeah.
but I
So
wanted you to
it
finish.
was all right. But that's kind of like, I guess, the world that a lot of men operate in, and where
Yeah.
somebody comes up and they're just like,
But I do think it is a Gen Z thing because, at least in my circle of friends, and I'm a millennial, I suppose, um, I'm not hearing about people being aired out on social media, and none of
no,
my friends are really airing people out like that. Um, but I guess it's happening.
I don't think it is, not as much. The example was, oh my God, what's her name? Doja Cat, and
Mm,
the
like
dude who gave
rejecting
her a
some,
T-shirt.
yeah.
And looking at that interaction, there was so much that was going on, like between, is she uncomfortable or is she not uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Is he like crossing boundaries? Like, there was a whole subset of things that were happening underneath what could be observed
Yeah, it's
that
true.
nobody like knows about. And seeing something like that get, platformed, and this was a
Yeah,
gay man who was like, to men, we were like, oh, he was nice to her, she
literally.
invited him, like, we can't do anything right. So
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to approach someone and they seem open to it and we
right,
exchange numbers, and then I go home and I find out that, on Twitter,
right. Yeah.
like, they didn't want that, but I got the number.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us experience that. So it's like refreshing, especially like if you see somebody that you're interested in. I think a lot of people might think, oh, that person's out of my league, or oh, they
Mm-hmm.
won't be interested in me, or oh, they'll reject me for having herpes. But it's just like, shoot your shot.
Right. That's kind of how I see it too. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't shoot your shot, how would you know? How
Yeah.
would you experience whatever's to come? And I think that's also been, if I really want something, I'm going to initiate for it.
All right. Tools for managing the things. So being polyamorous, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned jealousy and that you're not in therapy because you're doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that. How'd you graduate therapy? Were you just like, I ain't got nothing to talk about?
Literally, I was taught. I think I kept talking about maybe like something else that was going on in my life, but I was like, I got the tools. Actually, I'm just bringing this up still, and my therapist was like, all right, well, think about something you want to work on or work towards, and I was like,
Not needing
I
you.
I guess I don't need to really work through anything. Like I've got the tools, and the tools would be um, really reflecting on whatever um, situation I'm going through, and some things that I often use is like, what is the proof that this thing that I'm overthinking is real or true? And oftentimes there is no proof. There is no proof. It's just me overthinking a situation and thinking about all the things that can go wrong. When historically, if I think about my anxiety, um, I can kind of recall, things going well and having that be something that grounds me. Um, Especially with jealousy, for example. I'm in a new relationship, and if my partner is going out on a date, I find that I feel jealous because my love language is quality time. So I'm jealous you're spending time with someone else and it isn't me, but I have to ground myself in knowing that I get to see you almost 24 hours every single day, all day of the week. So me allowing you maybe 4 to 8 hours of the day to, do whatever you need to do, go to the gym, do laundry, maybe go on this date, is normal and okay and doesn't affect your interest in me or your desire. Um, so things like that, to keep myself grounded in knowing that any anxiety that I have is just anxiety and isn't actually true. I shouldn't give it that power.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it the time that they're gone or what they're doing in the time that they're gone? Because
Both.
is it different if, like, what do you mean you got to go to work? Like,
I don't like, I never get jealous at going to work, but I will say my partner works with a lot of women, and those women are always shooting their shot because my partners gorgeous. I'm so lucky, but also my jealousy is always stemmed, or not stemmed, but maybe activated.
Oh, I thought you meant stemmed, like short for stimulated.
Stimulated, but also activated, I
Okay.
think more so. So some things that my partner will do to keep me grounded is letting me know that they don't mix business with pleasure. And if someone at work is hinting that their desire exists for them, they're going to shut it down. And, or if they are interested, they're going to let them know to like not do it at work, and that, you know, they can talk or find some time afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting because it also definitely is dependent on the things that they do. And for example, um, my partner thinks that I shouldn't have felt so jealous because they had left a date not kissing the girl on the mouth, but leaving her with a kiss on the hand.
Oh, that's like more intimate
I
or
was like,
something.
that's
Or
more
that's
intimate. What the hell? And then telling
everybody's
me,
kissing on
yeah,
the
you know, I
first
was
date.
just like kissing up on her, but not really kissing on her, just, you know, teasing. And I'm like, oh, so now she's gonna think about you all weekend. And, and in his head, he's like,
Oh, my
I thought
chest.
I was being more of a gentleman and like not, you know,
You were
being
a
so.
gentleman to her.
Yeah, I was like, I should be the only one getting that kind of treatment.
Did you
But
open the door for her?
how dare you?
Yeah.
So yeah, having to like stay grounded and like it is okay and normal for like things that happen with me to happen with other people. It's not diminishing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's normal. It's okay.
Yeah. I always too feel like coming back is a choice, right? Like
Exactly.
to stay and to continue to like choose you. I
Mhm.
think that means a little bit more than if he weren't to have the options to if it was only you. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, all right. So it's like y'all are consistently
Choosing to
choosing.
return back to each other
Yeah,
and to like kind of give each other the priority that we do
that's
in
the
each
word I was
other's
looking
lives,
for.
because like we're building towards something. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping this is the person I marry, and maybe he gets a child from me, who knows. But like knowing those things, it's like, yeah, of course I'm going to take you into consideration.
The way you said that.
What?
No, no, yeah, we got to talk about it. But the way you said that, that was a very specific thing.
I get what you mean. I know exactly what I did and
all
what I said
right, all
it.
right. So the prioritization, like, that sounds. Damn, what was I finna say?
I know it caught you off guard,
the
but that's also just for context. Previously, in all of my relationships, I've always felt unsatisfied, I guess, and the thought of settling down or having a child, coming from, you know, divorced parents, I feel like I just always wrote off getting married or having children or even wanting children, because I logically know you're giving up so much of yourself for the betterment of this child.
Mm,
And yeah, that's like a big thing. So I think a part of me for most of my life has always been like, I don't want children because that's it's an easy way out, kind of. But also, yeah, not finding a partner who I feel like confident in my ability to do that with.
yeah, that's big because I've gone back and
Some
forth.
adult stuff.
Yeah, this is yeah. We don't went all over the place, right? But yeah, I've always thought that like I can't do what I do
Mm-hmm.
and have a family. And then like there were periods where I thought that I could do both. And then it was like kind of it's one or the other. And
Mm-hmm.
so like I still don't know what that could look like. And it's nice to be able to have the option. It's nice to be able to choose like, all right, well, here's what we're doing now, and then be open to whatever it is. But I do think that it does take like the right aligned partner, and
Yeah,
it sounds like that's what you're looking at right now with this
possibly.
person
Yeah.
in.
I mean, misalignments also happen and like things can change. So I'm also aware of
Mm-hmm.
that. But I mean, if all things are good, then I'm more open now.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that you want to leave people listening with before I let you go? And is there anything that you're like super passionate about that you want to share?
Something to leave you listeners with, I think, is kind of just the reminder of your anxieties are just thoughts and aren't your reality. And I'm leaving that with everyone because I feel like even if you don't have an anxiety disorder, everyone deals with some level of anxiety in their life. And something I'm super passionate about is humanizing sex workers and letting people know that we're just humans who really like to do this one thing, but we're also able to do so many other things too.
Mm-hmm. Cool. How can people connect with you?
You can connect with me on Instagram at actuallybats. And even if you don't have Instagram, maybe still go to Instagram just to find a link where then you can find me just about anywhere else.
Okay. Podcast, is that still a thing? Do we want to talk about that? All right. Nope.
I was like, I don't know what's going to happen.
All right.
So
if you want to listen to old episodes of the podcast,
at Consensual Carnage Podcast on Instagram. And
what's the podcast called?
Yeah, Consensual Carnage,
Okay.
the podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you can listen to a podcast, YouTube.
Awesome. All right, that concludes this episode of Something Positive for Positive People. Please like, rate, review, share, subscribe to the podcast. Follow me on Instagram at Courtney Brain. First Sunday Monday. Wow, first Monday of each month at 7:30 Eastern Time. There's a virtual herpes support group. The second Monday is a virtual men's herpes support group. And I'm working on what third and fourth Sundays are going to be. And then if there's a fifth Sunday, I rest. All right. We have some stuff on the events tab. We'll be at Sex Down South, September 4th through 7th. I'll be hosting a workshop there for people with herpes. I'll be hosting like a men's meetup, special interest group. That's the word I was looking for. November 7th through 9th, the day before my birthday, I'll be in Indianapolis for the Midwest Love Fest. We'll have another one of those herpes discussions there. And we're going to do karaoke someday. If you're in New York, I'm trying to do karaoke soon. I can't say the date because I don't know if I'm going to post this podcast next week or the week after, and karaoke will have happened, but be on standby for like a karaoke thing. All right. And I think that's all. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter already, please go to spfpp.org/herpes-newsletter, or you'll get a pop-up about 30 seconds into browsing on the website. All right. Till next time, stay present. And it's weird. Like you had to sit there through that. Like,
it's okay.
Oh.
It's funny because at first I was like being funny and I was like, "Ooh, yes, writing notes."
Oh, I didn't hit record. I'm
You're
fucking
lying.
with you. No.
You're so lying.